So I'm now going to turn to Zenon Christodoulou. Zenon?
Thank you, Peg, and thank you, everyone. It's great to see you here, and I can't tell you how important it is for these events to have someone like Ben Aletta, who is our AV guru. Big round of applause for Ben. He's our one-man surveillance team, and I believe that James Comey would deny ever having met him, which indicates to me that they were probably college roommates. So we'll see about that, but I really want to thank you and thank Peg for putting this together in such a great fashion, for having you all come out. Seeing all of you here today reminds me of all the hard work we've done over the last several years. We've battled to maintain our common ideals and our common principles. Principles that believe that everyone should be treated evenly and be given a fair shake. Principles that we know that every advanced society should embrace, like health care for everyone and proper education. And that we know that these things aren't just the right thing to do because they make us more competitive and more successful, but they're the moral things to do. And we know that because we've worked so hard together on these issues, and I know you feel the exact same way I do. And side by side, we've battled together to preserve these common values by petitioning, phone banking, fundraising, protesting, and voting. So today, we decide not to battle, but who will lead the charge. And I believe that the best person for that job is Ambassador Phil Murphy. And not to overstate it, but what we do here in Somerset County today has statewide and national implications. The world and the nation are looking to see what we do in New Jersey and how we change the course of the future. The current administration, both in the state and in Washington, are showing us the implications of a bad leader. And we have too many of those. And it's time for us to find a leader who we can rally behind and show not just that we can support the right values, but that we can unify our voice and the importance of us coming together to show the state and to show the nation that Democrats will not be divided. Our differences are minor, but the important thing is that we are Democrats and that we work together and we show a unified voice. Now, I couldn't think of anyone better to help us unify our principles and our voice than Ambassador Phil Murphy. He is someone who is equally comfortable in a boardroom and in a union hall. Someone who is equally adept at financial rating mechanisms and with rising costs of health insurance. We need someone who, rather than enjoying the fruits of his labor or time with his family, has decided to help us. He says he's got our back. I know him pretty well. He does have our back. And let me tell you what I think that means. When someone tells you they've got your back, that means you don't have to watch them to question what they're going to do. You know they're going to do the right thing. When someone has your back, you know that you can go about your day and take care of your families, knowing that someone higher up the food chain and someone protecting us really cares about us. He is someone who has shown his whole life that working for the downtrodden and for the less fortunate are critical values to him. His moral compass points north, regardless of the seas at hand. And we need a leader who will never forget the values of hard work. Now, as I said, I've gotten to know him a little bit over the last few years. And I'm convinced that his abilities and compassion will lead our state to a brighter day. He started working as a young teenager, violating every Massachusetts child labor law. And he somehow worked hard, pulled himself up by his bootstraps and made it into Harvard. and then went on to one of the most prestigious business schools in the country. And as people of his talent and drive typically do, he went into the business world and achieved great successes. And yes, he did very well. Very well. That's what men and women with talent typically do. And I know that some of us may not like the idea of great wealth. Well, I know that in our great American history, there is someone who has always stood against the elite and the corrupt, and someone who is well known as a trust buster. And President Teddy Roosevelt has a great quote, which I think is very important. We draw the line at misconduct, not wealth. And the conduct of Phil Murphy is unimpeachable. And now he wants to use his talents and his time and his experiences to help New Jersey, to help erase the 8 years of self-serving and vindictive leadership. We've endured 8 years of division. We need a leader who will unify us, who will magnify and leverage our voices together as one party and as one state. And I can't think of one person more qualified to do that than Ambassador Phil Murphy. Because he understands the unique role that New Jersey will play in national politics. I nominate someone who will restore New Jersey's image and integrity. Because we understand the complexities of our society and that they require a truly brilliant leader who, like us, earned his stripes in the real world and the private sector. I nominate someone who's shown a lifetime of successes, because we understand that our democratic principles must prevail if our society is to endure. I nominate someone with the passion and the work ethic to make us proud. And because united we stand, I am honored to nominate Ambassador Phil Murphy for the office of Governor of the great state of New Jersey. Let our combined voices show the nation that together we will not be defeated. Please join me in supporting the next Governor of New Jersey, Ambassador Phil Murphy.
The name of Phil Murphy has been placed in nomination. Margaret Weinberger, why do you rise?
I second your nomination.
Thank you. So the name of Phil Murphy has been made. Phil has been nominated and seconded. Are there any other nominations? Somebody want to move to close nominations? Second? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. The next plan is to hear from the candidates. Unfortunately, Assemblyman Wisniewski has chosen not to attend convention. Guess he doesn't want our vote. I'm going to call upon Phil Murphy, the only candidate who has been nominated and seconded, who is here. Assemblyman.
That's quite a soundtrack. Good evening, everybody. I just would say probably the most important thing I can say is look around and look at how many people are in this room tonight. Democracy in our party is alive and well. Barbara, thank you for your second, and Zenon, you're on the short list, as I've said to you before, of Cher and Elvis and very few others where you just say the first name and we all know who we're talking about. But thank you for your extraordinary words. I'm not sure there's anything I could say that would live up to that. I have to say first and most importantly from my side, I'm joined by my wife of almost 23 years, Tammy Murphy's with us. We have 4 teenagers. There's no telling what's going on back at home right now, so keep us in your prayers. I was hearing the extraordinarily gracious words also about Assemblyman Wisniewski, and I wanted to make two comments. Number one, I've never run for public office before, and people take shots at you. I'm determined you need a thick skin. That's one of the, you have to really enjoy people. You have to care about policy and what do we need to do to fix this state. And you've also got to have thick skin. And I stupidly returned fire, and I'm not going to do that again. We're all Democrats. Secondly, the least among us of those running for governor, and there are many more than John and myself, the least among us, and I'll claim the spot as the least among us, are far more qualified than the very best of the other side of the aisle. Let's not forget that. And we may have our differences, but frankly, the more I'm in this, the more I realize those differences are tactical. They're we share a common vision on where we want to go as a state. We share a common view of what the horizon should look like. We may have different means and different modes of getting there. The differences among us, the word pale does not describe our differences and how small they are relative to the differences we have with the other side. And those differences are overwhelming. They're fundamental. They're existential to the future of the state and the future of this country. And right, it's nights like tonight when you look around and you see this room overflowing, where it gives you faith that we can take this state back, and God willing, at some point soon, take this country back. I've lost my voice a little bit. Somebody recently told me I sounded like Lauren Bacall. I was not sure if that was a plus or a minus. I didn't make the point that I believe she's passed away, so I hope there was something else. So forgive me if I'm not as full-throated as normal tonight. Another important point, I'm a Howard Dean guy. I was the National Finance Chair for the Democratic National Committee because of Howard's 50-state strategy, which is a strategy that had us in every state, no matter how red. It had us in every county. And I'm committed, no matter how red, I'm committed to not being here just when I need you. And I do need your help and support, and I ask you for it. I want to make sure you hold me to the fact that I'm going to be here when you need me. Whether it's in a political context, or more importantly, if we're fortunate enough to get there, to be in a governing mindset. One of the other elements that Howard taught me is the whole ballot counts, up and down the ballot. And whoever it is who's gained your support for the office of governor tonight will stand with great pride with a collection of folks who are in this room, in some cases depending on what legislative district you're in. I see Senator Bob Smith here tonight, who's a giant, particularly on the environment. I've just recently been endorsed by the League of Conservation Voters, and yesterday the Sierra Club, which means or Joe Danielson, who's here, who shows personal courage every day in so many ways. And every time I see you, Joe, you look great, whether it's with your hair or without your hair. You look fantastic, and you are. And Joe Egan's, I don't know if Joe is here, but Joe is the third leg to that stool. I don't want to omit people, but I'm also looking back at Andrew Zwicker, who's the smartest man in show business. And we've got two exceptional running mates this year, and the 16th is gettable for us. Not just for you to get reelected, but to get your colleagues in alongside you. We can win that race. You got an outstanding candidate for clerk. You got a couple of terrific freeholder candidates. You've got some consequential local elections. There are a number of other legislative districts where we're trying to claw our way in. There's no reason to believe that with the sort of spirit and effort and the turnout that we see tonight, that we can't begin to claw our way back and turn those red seats blue. and I don't know where this county would be. And she's not just a model for this county and in this county. I don't know where our party would be in the state, but certainly I don't know where it would be in Somerset County without Peg Schaefer as its chair. Just exceptional work, day in and day out, one foot in front of the other. There's no magical moment where in a county like this, where you wake up one day and everything has gone blue. It's hard work, one election at a time, one foot in front of the other, walking before we run, and then you wake up someday and say, you know what, this thing is going our way. And with Chris Christie as the governor, and Donald Trump, as our kids would say, he who shall not be named as the president, it's possible lightning could strike in a number of places this year, right here in Somerset County. I'm honored to be a brother in arms in that endeavor. Zenon said more about me than I actually even know that existed in my life. I've had a bunch of chapters in my life that have formed me. Yes, I was a banker, that is true. You hear it from the horse's mouth. I did pick up some skills doing that I think are relevant, like how to deal with rating agencies and how to create jobs, which we need desperately in this state. I served proudly on the national board of the NAACP. I chaired the board of a women's shelter in Monmouth County where Tammy and I and our 4 children live. I started a teen helpline. I chaired the original commission on pension and health care benefits for public sector employees in New Jersey. I co-chaired a national task force on public education in the 21st century. I was the United States ambassador. I served President Barack Obama. By the way, I love him. I already have a high opinion. He's looking better and better by the second here. That's already from a high level. So I've been honored and proud to have done a lot of things in my life. Like anyone's life is a full book. It isn't just one chapter. So I would encourage you, if you're here kicking the tires tonight, please kick the tires and read the whole book of my life. But I want to say the most important chapter of my life was the first one. And Zenon referred to it, and I would just say that I grew up in a family with a dad who did not get out of high school, a mom who did. She made sure we got educated and went to college. He made sure we cared about politics in our community. We grew up with nothing. I used to say we were middle class on a good day. Frankly, we were working poor. We all worked. That wasn't the issue. I worked, as Zenon alluded to, illegally at the age of 13. I didn't realize I violated child labor laws, but I hope the statute of limitations in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts has run out. I slept in the same bedroom as my parents until the age of 9. We had no money, we had no space, but we were happy. I'm a proud public school product, by the way. I used to say that. We were happy, and I think often, why were we happy? And the answer was simple. I grew up in John Kennedy's and Lyndon Johnson's America. The America that was when you knew that as a kid, no matter how little you had, if you worked hard, you stayed in school, you got good grades, you stayed out of trouble, you were going to do better than mom and dad did. And if you said to me, what's the one singular reason you're up here tonight asking for your support to run for governor, it's because that little kid in that working poor family today in the state of New Jersey, I don't think could put that same deal in the bank as I did when I was a little kid growing up in the 1960s. I find that shameful. I want to be governor that turns that back to the way it used to be, that turns it back on its head, where that kid can go all the way to the very top of this country. New Jersey, 1 second on New Jersey, and I'll take more of your time than you, I'm sure, want. If we don't get the economy right, we don't get this state right. That means both growing it and making it fair again. And this county can be a huge beneficiary of both. Growing it, I believe, we have to restart a couple of the engines that we used to rely on. I think 2 big ones are the innovation economy. We were Silicon Valley before there was a Silicon Valley. And the infrastructure economy. Complete advantage of our God-given location. There's no reason other than we have the wrong leadership right now in the state that we can't reignite those engines. But we also have to make this state fair again. We're not only an economy that's not growing, were profoundly unfair. So we've got to get to the point where we've got a governor that will stand for raising the minimum wage to $15, that will have earned sick leave, not just for some, but for all, that will have child dependent care and maybe caregiver tax credit, that please God, we will have equal pay for equal work. That we'll be able to have our kids afford to go to college again and stay in the state of New Jersey, please God. That we will no longer be, as we are now, the #1 home foreclosure state in the United States of America. That will reform the criminal justice system, a system in which the white, non-white ratio of persons incarcerated is the widest gap in the United States of America. This is New Jersey in the year 2017. It can't be that way. We need a governor who will sign sensible gun safety laws, who will accept a governor who will accept the sad reality of climate change and then put in place to mitigate that. The governor who will have to be dragged kicking and screaming to put money in lead remediation programs in a state with 11 communities and 2 counties with a higher percentage of kids with lead poisoning than in Flint, Michigan. And please God, let's get a governor who will fund Planned Parenthood and women's health programs. And if this all weren't enough, if we already didn't have the most consequential election for governor, I believe in our states, in this state in the past 70 years, we now have a hostile administration in Washington. So you'll forgive us, we're going to need to walk and chew gum at the same time. We have to be laser focused on getting this economy and this state back on its feet, back to be the fair, growing state that folks respect and trust. But by the same token, we can never let it be asked, where were we when there were weeks of anti-Semitic behavior met with silence, or when a anti-transgender executive order came down from on high, or when whole religions are being discriminated against, or when the Affordable Health Care Act is being dismantled before our eyes and replaced with something which will, if it's successful, will be the biggest wealth transfer from folks in poverty, working poor, and middle class to the very wealthiest in the history of our country. We cannot be silent. We cannot be in the shadows. We cannot only worry about what's in front of us, which we must worry about. We must stand up and be counted and stand strong on behalf of American values and on behalf of our Constitution. I promise you we will do that with you. I'm an optimist, and I want to conclude by saying one thing, but you're going to give me the hook, and I don't blame you. I was asked on the day that we declared our candidacy, May 16th, why you? First interview, first question. I'll tell you what I said then. I've not gotten any better at it in these 10 months later. I said, because I'll be the governor who makes decisions at every turn based on what's best for the next generation in the state, not what's best for my next election, period. You have my word. And don't measure us just in those words, but in the actions that underpin that. Or I would say it differently. I ask with humility. Please put me in that category of the right people going into government for the right reasons, trying to do the right things. There's no ulterior motive. There's no machine. There's no backstory. I am who I appear to be, whether you like me or not. God bless you. Thank you. And I appreciate you.
Part of this nomination process with respect to the governor's office. The rules of the convention provide nominations, seconds, speeches by candidates. There's only one candidate in the room. You heard the speeches. We are now going to vote. Those of you who have voting credentials, have a card. Doesn't make any difference what color your card is for this purpose, because everybody lives in the state of New Jersey. So, the state of New Jersey, now we have two candidates who have been nominated and seconded. First, I'm going to call upon those of you who are voting for Ambassador Murphy. Please stand and raise your card.
Oh, this answer?
All right, we need to do some counting.
Who's this for?
You get row 5.
Hold on, all right, let's try. Those of you who are voting for Murphy can now sit down, and let's try those of you voting for Assemblyman Wisniewski.
Count.
Hold up your cards. All right, without counts, it appears clear to me that the overwhelming majority of people in this room are voting for Ambassador Murphy. Does anybody disagree? Well, we have 400 delegates. We got about, let's count the Wisniewski votes. I think that's a good idea.
400 here.
So you can count, somebody should count, just so I get an arm's length on. All right, we counted 16 votes for Wisniewski. Yeah, we counted everybody, I believe. All right, Ambassador Murphy, you're our nominee.